Welcome back. We're discussing plans that would more than double the number of U.S. troops based in Colombia. Joining me to discuss this from New York is Dr. Gregory Wilpert, editor of the website Venezuela Analysis. And here in Washington, I'm joined by Ray Walser, a senior policy analyst for Latin America at the Heritage Foundation. Before we get back to our discussion, I want to look at the results of our live station viewer poll just before the break. We asked, why is the United States putting more troops in Colombia? 28% of you believed it was, quote, to monitor and control the drug trade. 19% of you said it was an effort to be closer to Venezuela's oil supplies. And 53% of you thought it was an effort to increase America's influence in the region. Of course, these results are not scientific, but they do reflect some of the thoughts of our viewers. Okay, let's get back to our discussion, and I'm going to go back to Dr. Wilpert in New York. President Obama says that this redeployment of troops in Colombia is merely an update on Plan Colombia. This is a 10-year effort to stem the drug trade that is going on there, to cut off the drug supply routes, and also to help the Colombian government stabilize that country in the face of the forces, the FARC forces that are in the country over there. That seems like a reasonable intention, isn't it?
Well, it would be if Plan Colombia had any success, but so far all evidence points to the fact that, first of all, drug trade has increased more than ever. We can see this by that the number of drug interdictions actually in Venezuela and other areas have been going through the roof, which means that more drugs are being shipped from Colombia through Venezuela to other countries. And secondly, in terms of the stability of the Uribe government, it certainly doesn't need that help. It's been a very stable government. Uribe has been winning elections solidly, and the FARC is unlikely to win in Colombia. Everybody knows that. So it really doesn't serve any purpose in terms of those two objectives that you just described.
Okay, let me go to the phones. We have one of our viewers calling from Somalia. This is Idris. Go ahead with your question.
Yeah, I would like to thank you for your time, but I would like to comment to this program. So I know for sure that Americans won't go anywhere because of no reason. And the presence of American troops in Colombia means they want to gain something from. So Americans never go anywhere without retaining them. So we're not going to Somalia, maybe because they know that they won't gain there. I mean, nothing. So American is.
What is your question? What is your question, What is your question, Idris?
So my question is, what's the purpose of American troops to be there in Colombia? What's the purpose?
Okay, let me go to Dr. Walsh, a very skeptical man there.
Well, this will go back to also what Dr. Wilpert's position was. The purpose there, the U.S. is there to support what is called Plan Colombia, but it's the democratic security, which has completely, yes, there have been difficulties against the drug trafficking, but they have broken up the cartels. Security in the major cities of Bogota and Medellin, Cali, have improved dramatically. They're spreading out into the countryside. The democratic security program has been supported by the United States. The chief purpose is that the U.S. is there for two reasons. It is there to fight drugs. It is there to help bring stability to a democratic country of 40 million. It's a very critical, very large, very important country for U.S. interest. Our purpose is primarily looking at Colombia and its needs, not at its neighbors. If we wanted Venezuela's oil, we wouldn't go to Colombia. We could go straight for it. We have the capabilities to do that. So it's not, there's no use of Colombia as a trampoline, a jumping off point for going after Venezuela.
Do you agree with that, Dr. Wilpert? Because there has been at least one Colombian lawmaker who said that one of the reasons why the United States is in Colombia is because they want to be close to Venezuela's mighty oil supplies, as he called it.
Well, I do think other factors are playing a role than just drug traffic, trying to prevent drug trafficking and stabilizing Uribe. I think the whole issue of having a U.S. military presence in Latin America is very important to the U.S. government, precisely in order to wield some influence in Latin America, particularly in Colombia, but also to put pressure on Chavez over and over again, at least during the Bush administration, whenever there was a conflict between Colombia and Venezuela. The United States, through various means, has tried to inflame that conflict by making it worse rather than defusing it. And I think this most recent example of opening new bases in or participating in Colombian bases is just another effort to basically put pressure on Chavez. It's not an effort to outright take control of the oil, obviously. I think the United States is much more subtle than that, but it is a way to hem Chavez in and to put pressure on him to basically get him to back off on his strong positions with regard to the United States. Of course, Chavez isn't having any of that and fights back, and I mean verbally at least, and of course with the possibility of cutting off trade with Colombia. So this is a dangerous game actually of chicken that is being played, I think, with in the United States with regard to the United States, because if trade were to cut off, like I said before, then more serious conflicts could erupt later on.
We have an email which has come through from one of our viewers. This is from Michael. He's writing to us from Maryland here in the United States, and he writes, the US government should consider ending the war on drug dealers and consumers, which would change the dynamics in a good way in Central and South America. Bit of a radical proposal.
A radical proposal. That means the problems are the debate just doesn't go anywhere in the United States. What do you legalize? Okay, you decriminalize, legalize the use of marijuana. Well, you're going to let cocaine be sold on the streets? Are you going to deal with hard drugs, methamphetamines? Sadly, there's other option. I mean, I agree that much more needs to be done on demand reduction, on treatment of getting people who abuse drugs. It is a medical problem, but it creates the criminality. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have a wide spectrum. You're going to have to increase resources. What we oftentimes do in the United States is everybody wants to take all the money from interdiction and put it into drug treatment. Other people want to put it into interdiction. We actually have to increase our resources all along the chain, from the production, from the coca, all the way to the consumer, educate people. One of the things I've advocated is that the president himself become involved in a very high-powered demand reduction campaign. And just to wrap up quickly, one point, on military presence, we have 3 forward operating bases. We have our presence, small presence, 1,400 men in Colombia. We're no longer in Manta. We have no military stations in the Caribbean. Southern Command has moved back to Miami, Florida, after leaving very peacefully Panama. It's not a very aggressive profile that I think that Mr. Chavez needs to worry too much about.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. Dr. Ray Walser, thanks for joining us. Dr. Gregory Wilford from New York, thank you for joining us. And thank you for being with us. Riz is back on Monday, and he'll be looking at what happens when there is a clash within a culture. Are taboos around issues of sex changing in the Middle East? That's next week. A reminder that you can also catch episodes of this show on iTunes. On this week's podcast, we look at the use of rape as a weapon of war in the Democratic Republic of Congo. That's all from the team. See you next time.